Would a trade for Jalen Ramsey from the Miami Dolphins push the Arizona Cardinals over the top and immediately back in contention? We'll debate that as Alex Clancy joins me on this PHNX Cardinals. Plus, so does Benjamin Allbright, his latest one he's hearing about Ramsey and his draft intel. And our guy Fran Duffy jumps back in. It's the franchise mode. It's a loaded PHNX Cardinals happening right now.
See live.
Let's see what's going on live. Unfortunately, okay. Right, if you want to over at Circle K, it's PHNX Cardinals. Today, participating locations, CircleK.com. For more details, go PHNX.com. Our draft by our big board, top 100 is live. Check it out. Our guy, Alex Clancy, joins me. It's a reunion of sorts. What's going on, Clancy?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. A few words all of a sudden. Out there on the Twitter street, just giving you his opinion on everything. But now I introduce him and he's all tight-lipped. That's not going to be the case here for the next 20, 30 minutes. Of course, a producer extraordinary, Damon, Dawg, behind the ones and two, behind the Mac, as we call it here at PHNX Sports. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe to PHNX Sports as our march for 40K continues. We are just under a week out from, or just over a week, I should say, out, math is hard, from the NFL draft. And the Cardinals at 16 remains to be a bit of an enigma. We got to figure out, we kind of pending down where the Redbirds could go with that pick. We get some help today from Benjamin Allbright. And, of course, Fran Duffy, who's been crushing it all draft season long. Want to say a fond hello to all of our friends in the chat. What's going on? I see Jacob. I see Tony. I see CBK, Brian P, Chase, Marley P, Nate, Michael Evans. We've got Sag. I'm sure Schaff is out there. Ryan Walker, AZ Cardinals, Jules Felix, the squad. Trevor, I see you all. Kyler Plummer, Red Sea, JD, the squad. It's here. It's a deep crew, but we're proud to call them our friends, our community, Clancy. The report came out earlier today. Schefter, Ian Rappaport, all the heavy news breakers out there that Jalen Ramsey and the Miami Dolphins are headed for divorce. Oh, no. It's going to be house divided, and Jalen Ramsey is going to be likely playing elsewhere in 2025. Would it benefit the Arizona Cardinals to inquire about Ramsey and maybe bring him aboard and finish a pretty fantastic offseason?
I mean, the fact that they don't have to is pretty cool. You know, it's not like, oh, you know what? Let's take a swing and, you know, grab a guy who's 30, who's making too much money for his age and his production over the last couple of years. I think it'd be fun. They could do it if they wanted to, and it wouldn't crater the future. But no. I mean, in a perfect scenario, you trade him, like, what, 21 mil this year? Miami takes on half of that. You completely tear up after the out that he has in his contract after the season, and you completely restructure. And he wants to stay here on a Monty Ossenfort deal where it's 25 mil guaranteed over 3 years for a fourth-round pick. We could have a conversation. I mean, but obviously Miami's going to want more than that, and Jalen Ramsey's going to want more than that. So
yeah, and you know, Benjamin Allbright's going to shed more light as far as, you know, what maybe the hurdles are for Jalen Ramsey, and apparently it's not like this isn't groundbreaking. This isn't new news to the NFL circles as far as Ramsey and his availability. But let's take a look at Ramsey's first, as far as how his 2024 season went. This is a guy, as Alex mentioned, 30 years old, 6'1". He's got the length, the size that Gannon likes from his defensive backs, 11 pass breakups, 13. What is that? Is it total tackles there? He had 13? Or I don't know. What is that?
No, sorry. That should say interceptions too.
Oh, okay. All right. We had INTs, and then you got the positional rank 16th of 225. So, look, top 20 corner as you kind of just look at it in any metric. And then we got our friends over at Spot Track breaking down as far as the money which it was an inexplicable extension that was signed last September by the Dolphins. They lock him in for the next, 3 years. There's some void years on it, but Spot Track was breaking it down. We had this one, Damon, if we could see it. Basically, the team that would acquire Jalen Ramsey would essentially be taking on a 1-year, $21.1 million contract with the remaining 3 years set up as a pay-as-you-go structure. Ramsey checking in as the 10th rated, according to PFF. You can go off a couple different ones. He was 12th in the other one.
I did check this, by the way. Actually, They had it wrong. He's the 10th graded against the run defensive cornerback. He's 16th overall in the PFF rankings from last season.
But that is, look, I mean, as multiple and versatile as Gannon wants each and every one of his defensive players to be. That's the one thing that you notice about Ramsey is he's pretty solid in a well-rounded cornerback. It's not just about, going up and pulling down INTs. This is a guy that at his age is still playing at a decent clip. But Alex, I hear you, man. I mean, I think like it would be fun to bring him in. Like it's a testament to where the rebuild has landed after 2 hard years as far as, the roster goes. Like they are in a position to where it would merit a deal for a guy like this. And we could spin and say, hey, this is a guy that puts you firmly back in contention. But as far as across the board, it doesn't check all the boxes. And they, are certainly not short on red flags as far as Jalen Ramsey goes.
I mean, but to play the other side, this is the time where they can do it. They've got a bunch of young guys on a bunch of rookie deals. That's not going to really come up until 2 years from now. They already took care of Trey McBride on a very team-friendly deal, taking care of Budda Baker. Like, this is the time if they wanted to pounce, they could. And Jalen Ramsey, let's not forget how good he was with the Rams. Let's not forget, like, the long lineage of corners just like him, Aqib Talib, Darrelle Revis, like Stephon Gilmore was still playing at a high level before last year. Just because you hit 30 as a corner, he doesn't have to be all pro. And that's something that if they did want to do this, and I think according to some books out there, like the Cardinals are second to land him. If they traded for him and they gave up a 4th round pick and they gave him a 3-year, $40 million with 25 guaranteed, it would be a good thing for the Cardinals. Like it wouldn't jettison anything. And that's the beauty of where they are right now, right? I'm kind of talking myself into it as we're talking about it.
You're going to be out there leading the charge for Jalen Ramsey wearing a Cardinals uniform next year.
But dude, like if they made a move and you have your outside guy to mentor Max Melton, you've got Garrett Williams, got Budda Baker, like Dadrian Taylor Demerson, like you're cooking with gas at this point. And then you've got your got the first 3 rounds.
No, I mean, I think that the Cardinals, and this was something that we had sourced pretty well early in the offseason, is they've been looking to upgrade at a veteran cornerback with a veteran quarterback. And as far as how the offseason dominoes fell, they just didn't have the ability to do that. Their focus obviously was they were hell-bent on rebuilding this defensive front, and they've done a good job on that with 3 key acquisitions, and haven't been able to really truly address, that vet corner spot. Would they pivot to maybe a true like prospect? I'm a little skeptical that Will Johnson makes it to the Cardinals at 16 at this point. If this is a draft day trade and you're giving up, pocket change in a day 3 pick, that's fine. Like as far as the contract goes, as long as you're not really kind of mortgaging the future salary cap wise, if it is true to what Spot Track is saying, and it's a 1-year, $21 million deal, you've got the salary cap funds to do so, and you're not going to be cap strapped from doing moves at the trade deadline or anything like that. I don't have an issue with it. Like I hear the Ramsey, like I get it. His 4th team. It seems like every time, like this is like his 4th spouse now at this point. It's ended in divorce. It hasn't been like really great terms. You feel like he's forced his way out of each and every stop he's made along the way. But his play continues to be where it needs to be. And are you a better team the next day? Yes. I just don't think that they're not going to prioritize this move. I don't see that as like just because where the caliber of player that they want. If this was a player with less baggage, I think it would be easy to go for it. But because Jalen Ramsey is so in the public eye as far as his negotiations and his tenures with teams and how they start and how they end, I don't know if the Cardinals actually have any appetite for that, for a guy to come in and just play ball for them.
Yeah, that may be true. I mean, if you look at it, and this is, again, we're kind of living this existentially here where it's like, I understand people in the chat, people in the comments on Twitter, everywhere, where it's like, no, it's never worked in the past. This isn't the past. The Stockholm Syndrome of living in what the Cardinals used to be over 10 years with Steve Keim and now couldn't be more different. They're wearing the same uniforms, but that's it. You know, they got the same owner, obviously. But could you argue, Bo, that if they were to bring Jalen Ramsey in, that this would be the most well-rounded defense that Jalen Ramsey's ever played with? With the Rams, it was hold on. So yeah. Miami, everybody's been hurt. Bradley Chubb was hurt. Christian Wilkins is gone. He's kind of on an island. Xavier Howard was never a guy, like, it just never really worked. With the Rams, you had Aaron Donald, okay? You had Bobby Wagner for a year, but a lot of it was very top-heavy because Aaron Donald was so dominant. And, you know, we had some young guys that he played with. And then, you know, I think he was part of Saxonville, right, with Calais Campbell, so maybe that was the best defense.
Yeah, but really good.
You know, that was a long time ago. I think a guy
took Blake Bortles to the AFC Championship game. I mean, that's how impressive that defense Saxonville was.
2-minute drive away from making the Super Bowl. That's right.
Yeah.
I think the guys like that with egos like that, when put in a situation where it's like, oh, this is functional, and that's what this defense is now. It's well-rounded. Yeah. I mean, maybe they'd lend to it, but again, this is a far-fetched idea to actually happen, you would think.
Yeah, I see Cards Kingdom saying hell no to Jalen Ramsey. I don't have the same energy towards like closing the door on this. Like, I do I believe it's going to happen? No, I don't really think like they're going to be in the Jalen Ramsey business. I think Benjamin Allbright, the comments you're going to hear are probably going to really kind of take the wind out of any of those sails, and you're going to hear some good insight too. That, you know, if the Cardinals aren't in them, it's going to be good to hear who also isn't in on Jalen Ramsey. But at the same time, I mean, when I see the size, when I see the skill set, when I see his willingness to do everything on the defensive side of the football, I just think that it would be a pretty good match on the field of play. But I am not naive to all the other factors and variables that go into bringing in Jalen Ramsey. And I'm sure, you know, Miami is staring down something, and I don't even know if Chris Greer and crew understand what this move of Ramsey would signify for them and where they stand organizationally. But that's not the Cardinals' problem. I see ABOT 777 saying just trade up for Will Johnson. Like, I think Will Johnson's a great prospect. If he fell to 16, I would have really no qualms with the Cardinals sticking and picking and taking a guy out of Michigan who I think could be, you know, to say he could be the next Jalen Ramsey. I mean, Jalen Ramsey's a Hall of Famer. But like, is he going to be somebody that's going to play a premium position at a high level for, you know, the foreseeable future? I'd lock into that. But I don't know if I'd say, hey, trade up, because I think the draft capital you have to give up to trade up for Will Johnson would be more what you have to give up to land a guy like Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah. And the money would be about the same for a top 12 pick. You know, I'd rather trade for a guy that, you know, because draft picks are the most overvalued entity in all of professional sports. You take the proven guy there.
Well, like, I mean, when we're talking pocket change, draft capital, day 3 stuff, I mean, that's what the projection is for Jalen Ramsey. So wrapping this conversation up, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not going to draw a line in the sand and say this is not a guy that would make the Cardinals better, because I think he would, and I think he would check a lot of the boxes that they've been looking to check as far as the veteran corner at that spot. It's just, you know, there might be some competition out there. And the Cardinals don't want to have to maybe really kind of outbid somebody for Jalen Ramsey's services. But as Clancy was saying, look, it's finally fun to be in a position to be like, hey, the roster is in a spot where like this would look like a really nice move for a team that's looking to push themselves, you know, out of that kind of tier where it's like, hey, we're a fringe playoff team to a team that could be kicking the door in come playoff time. We're going to get Clancy's thoughts on what he thinks the Cardinals should do in the first round of the NFL draft. Should they stick and pick? Should they trade down? And which positions he thinks they should really focus on come next Thursday. We'll get into that conversation coming up here on PHNX Cardinals. Drop a like on this video. Clancy joining the gang. Damon's here, of course, and we've got big news from our guy, David Kimmerly, president of America's most awarded Ford dealership Sanderson 4, congratulations to David. And they've got this. They just announced from America for America employee pricing. Now you pay what he pays on his full lineup of new Fords with no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense, and no added markups. That's right. From America for America, that employee pricing, employee price levels, evens the playing field for 4 dealers, and everyone that gets the same set price. However, the other dealers will still add addendums and add-ons. I got to go talk to my manager. It's going to cost you about 20%, APR, whatever it might be. Sanderson Ford will not. They're not going to play those games with you. Choose Sanderson because they have an inventory of a 70-year reputation of treating you right. Ford is undeniably America's first automaker in the world. And 80% of the vehicles Ford sells and are assembled in factories located in America, and they will be less affected by tariffs. And now is the best time to buy Ford from America for America employee pricing. Of course, it excludes 2025 Expedition, 2025 Super Duty, Raptors, Mustang, and Bronco specialty vehicles. Check them out. They were out there at our company golf tournament. We loved hanging out with Ron and the entire sales crew. Check them out for yourself. Okay, let's flip it over to our friends. Carol Royce, got to say, like, if you think you know real estate, you don't know real estate like Carol Royce does, because Carol is a real estate ninja, a house whisperer of sorts. She's been helping people buy and sell homes in the Valley since flip phones were cool. Over 3 decades. She sells more homes in a month than some agents do in a year, and that's not even exaggerating out there. Let's check out, as far as if you're doom scrolling Zillow at 2 a.m., let's let Carol do the real work here and all the heavy lifting. I can afford a house as soon as I sell a kidney, as soon as I'm going to eat a diet of steady ramen for the next couple of years. You don't have to live like that. You don't have to, you can just stop that. Before you give up, talk to Carol. She's if you're a first-time buyer, she got those programs that can help see, what's going to get you in the home of your dreams. Check out Carol. She's got an 18-month buyback guarantee. If you hate your home, she'll buy it back. Who does that? Nobody else in the market. And if you want to sell your home before buying, buy one of Carol's. She'll buy yours for cash. Boom. No waiting, no drama. Stop renting. Stop stressing. Call Carol Royce to talk real estate, 480-776-5231. And visit carolroyceteam.com. Tell them PHNX sent you. That's carolroyceteam.com. Terms and conditions apply. All right, back here, PHNX Cardinals, our guy Clancy, Bo Brack, Damon, Dawg. Johnny's off today. He'll be back in the fold soon. But wanted to get Clancy's thoughts on 16th overall. It's almost we've reached like peak draft hysteria. You're starting to see all the crazy stuff come out, like the Giants, the Saints. Like the Giants have, I think, set up 3 quarterback private workouts with Shedeur and Jalen Milroe, and get the Saints talking Tyler Shuck, who had 2 of the most egregious throws I've seen in my lifetime on tape. But they're going to give him the keys to the franchise at 25. Clancy, like, as you start to avoid paralysis by overanalysis, I mean, you've been pretty steadfast as far as what you think the Cardinals should do at 16.
Yeah, I mean, and this is also the time where it's like after Christmas, before New Year's, when nobody knows what day it is until, next week with the draft. So I agree with you. The craziness is there. Yeah, for me, it's O-line. For me, it's somebody that can add depth / steal at a guard role right away. A fail-safe if Yalta Frolds were to go down, which is my biggest fear going into this draft. I understand that they've got a deeper offensive line than they've had in years past, whether it's Gray Zabel or Kelvin Banks, and I know that he plays Paris Johnson Jr.'s position. When it comes to this, you take the best offensive line available in a draft that doesn't have many excellent ones. And the impetus for all this, Bo, I just went down the top 50 Pro Football Focus. I looked at others. There are 12 to 15 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers in the top 50. So if you look at 46, that could technically be a late first-round pick light talent-wise. So with how deep the pass rush room is, with how deep the defensive tackle room is, and the Cardinals needing both, I say go offensive line, and you get your guy at 16, even if you're reaching a little bit. And then if you can trade back and draft an O-lineman in the mid-20s and get a pick, you do that.
Yeah, I just don't see the value there. I think you would benefit from just running it back, lean into the continuity on the offensive line. I know there's concerns about Jonah Williams. Monty Ossenfort doesn't seem to have voiced those concerns. Seems pretty confident that Williams is going to be ready to go. Both him and Paris Johnson Jr., who ended the season on IR, he says, they're doing great as far as their offseason program goes. And then you brought back Kelvin Beachum. We like Isaiah Adams in the guard spot. You brought back Evan Brown. Just seems like the numbers crunch isn't conducive to bringing in a young offensive lineman and having him contribute early. Like when we talk about the previous segment about impact makers that could push this team over the top, I see this draft yielding the ability to find one of those guys at 16 and potentially 47, and then continue to do what you've done, like what you did with Adams, and take maybe a developmental tackle in the third round.
I get it. And I talked today, every segment I did this is obviously the choice: edge, defensive tackle, and then best player available. They all make sense. Like this isn't – the Cardinals win no matter what. And that's a great position to be in, again, as an overarching theme. With the great statement I already see in the comments, that like he can play all the interior line positions. He's played every position. I know he went to a Dakota State school. I get that he didn't go to Alabama or Georgia or LSU. I understand that. There's always one offensive lineman in every draft that comes from a school, and it's like, oh man, how did he slip? And I understand drafting at 16 or drafting at 21 or 22 if they were to trade back, that it's reaching a little bit. But I see it as like a fantasy football draft. If you're on the turn at 11 and you're coming back in the second round and you're taking a guy who probably goes at the end of the second round, but you're not going to get a pick before he's gone, you take your dude. And you look at all the draft pundits who are wrong 97% of the time placement-wise, and you take your guy that best fits your situation, and there are 20 pass rushers. You can get a B pass rusher in the second round. You may not be able to get a guy with the impact.
Why not get an A?
Sorry?
Why not get an A pass rusher?
None of this is going to work.
And I think the benefit of getting these small school guys is that you have the opportunity to get them later in the draft. Like getting them, like, don't they lose some sort of value? Isn't it like just deciding to pull into the parking lot and taking the first spot you see that's 300 yards away from the building, instead of just like trying to find like that real nice spot up close to Target or Costco or wherever you may be going?
It's that middle one, but it's also 130 degrees outside because this team needs to be ready to rip next year. And also,
that's what I'm saying. And you want to go get a guy that played against FCS level, and he's going to be making a position change. I just think like Gray Zabel checks a couple boxes where he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, but he doesn't play a premium position. And his transition, we talk about, Kyler Murray talks about Marvin Harrison Jr.'s transition from Ohio State to the NFL level. And we're talking about a guy that was playing Montana State and, some of these other like FCS schools.
What's a premium position, Bo?
Edge, cornerback, quarterback. Depends on the wide receiver. If you're going wide receiver, he's got to touch the ball probably 10 times. But I would say tackle, of course, is in there. So those are your premium positions. Whatever
a team needs in a given draft is a premium position. Mm. And what the Cardinals have done this offseason, to me, first of all, they've made that jump from zero semblance of pass rush, zero semblance of interior line pressure, at least on paper, to well above that. And the downfall of the Arizona Cardinals last year, among other things, was the offensive line forgot how to play football after their bye week. Yeah. So I know that, like, this is splitting hairs, dude. Like, seriously, if they take an edge, if they take James Pierce, if they take the kid out of Georgia there, cool. Yeah. Who cares? That's great. It'll help the team. If they want to take an interior defensive lineman, it'll help the team. I also think that having as much talent on the offensive line as possible is the most important thing. That's the most important thing for any team. Protect the quarterback. So I know that it's not sexy, and I know that you're not going to see the flash impact right away, potentially. But selfishly, for me, and I know this is irrational, and this is the only rational thing I've said all month about, for sure, is inherently subconsciously, I'm like, you got to see what Kyler Murray's got in a vacuum. The best possible situation to make a decision after this year if he's not the guy. Because if the offensive line, two guys get hurt, it's like, oh, well, you're going to run it back because the offensive line was bad. It's not Kyler Murray. Like, any excuse to validate or invalidate Kyler Murray being the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, I think has a little extra weight going into this draft.
Yeah, I think that you would be able put yourself in a position. The offensive line. It seems like there's organizationally confidence that they can do what they did last year, where it's just surrender 30 sacks, which is a decent number. And I know Kyler Murray and his elusiveness plays into that, and it's big, and that's asking a lot of your quarterback. But at the same time, like if you can continue to chip away and add and maybe finish the job as far as rebuilding this defensive front seven, to knock the pressure rate up, and then it's only going to benefit the back half of your defense, and then also create more opportunities for Kyler Murray in this offense. I just think that's what we're looking for. Brian saying you're a Billy Price believer. I wouldn't put that on Alex Clancy, of course, former scrubby center that used to play for the Cardinals. Luis saying just put Price in the bag, Billy. I'm glad that Billy Price is taking the rips here. Yeah, there's our Billy Price now, franchise owner of McDonald's, we believe, today. But Clancy, I heard you out. I think there is a sect of this fan base. There's a bunch of people that would just like take an offensive lineman every year. I'll make the case like if the class was better, deeper, I would probably why not be able to just wait a year, lean into the strength of this draft, and then take a tackle if you want in the first round next year if the class is good enough.
I mean, I get it. First of all, Damon's trolling. He's grown up a lot since I've been on. Fantastic work, dude. Fantastic work. I guess working with Bo that long will kind of make it go crazy. So, that's kind of my point is the depth of the draft is pass rush and interior defensive line. You can get, I'd rather have an A- and a B than an A and a B- or something like that. Like it's really the average of the first two rounds of picks. And listen, if they move back, I think it skyrockets the chance they do take an offensive lineman because that, it gives you your extra third or fourth, whatever it is in the meat of this draft. But if they take an edge, awesome. If they take an interior defensive line, man, awesome. If they take a wide receiver, terrible. But everything else is like, you got to be happy with 99% of the decisions they're going to make. And Monty Osfort has all the tools in the tool shed to be able to utilize money picks and, the long runway of them. So if it's edge,
you've seen the top 30 visits, right?
I have. Yeah.
And it's dominated by defensive front seven players. I mean, do you have a favorite out of those guys that you've seen?
Probably James Pierce. I mean, percentage-wise, the numbers are there. I've watched more film on him than I have on anybody else. But it seems like the simple pick. He was also out of the first round 2 weeks ago with mock drafts. So it's like, who the hell knows, man? If this is what I'll leave you with this and whatever it is. If these guys were top 10 picks, they'd be top 10 picks. Regardless of quarterback, regardless of anything. Only two quarterbacks right now are going in the top 10. None of these guys are really talked about top 10 across the board. So it's not like a transformational guy that you'd be getting at 16 where you may get close to that at 47. That's kind of like the big – there's no separation, it seems like. It's a bunch of dudes. And people are just going to plug them, and some are going to get lucky and some aren't. That's kind of – it's a lot of the draft is a guessing game. Same with wide receivers.
Yeah. You can, of course, listen to Clancy, watch him Locked On Cardinals here on YouTube. Find that channel, and then also wherever you find podcasts talking about this team, just like Johnny, myself, and Damon every day. What do you got coming up the rest of the week?
I'm going to dive more into why offensive line at 16 is important, but under the guys tomorrow about how the Cardinals at 47, you could look at it as an outside first-round pick with all of the skill position players that are probably going to be going way too high. And that's only including two quarterbacks in the top 50. And there's going to be at least four in the first round.
You can only hope, right? You can only hope that those other teams load up where the Cardinals seem like they're looking to day 3 maybe for those skill positions. At Clancy's Corner on Twitter. Alex, always fun to catch up, man.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Awesome stuff from Clancy. We have our guy Benjamin Allbright making his triumphant return back here at the PHNX Cardinals. He's got his latest draft intel. And should the Redbirds, are they in on Jalen Ramsey? The news was that his time in Miami is coming to an end. It comes up next here on PHNX Cardinals. Got to tell you guys about our friends over at, of course, who do we got? We have our friends over at cornbreadhemp.com. Cornbread Hemp, of course, is offering the first USDA organic CBD gummies. Cornbread offers that USDA CBD gummy in the USA, and their gummies are the highest quality full spectrum gummies on the market to help with stress release. Also, they're going to help improve your sleep. Full spectrum, USDA certified organic, made from flour only, and they're also third-party lab tested, vegan, dairy-free, and they've got the gluten-free and no artificial flavors or preservatives. Cornbread offers free shipping and backs all products with their 30-day Better Life guarantee. Take Cornbread's 2-minute survey. This is all it's going to take, and they're going to be able to give you customized recommendations tailored to your needs, whether it's aches, pains, sleep support, or stress relief. Check them out right now. If you want to give Cornbread Hemp a try, they're offering PHNX listeners 30% off your first order. That's 30% off at cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX. Use the promo code PHNX at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX. Use the code PHNX for 30% off your first order. This is the good life. Also, you got to check out what's going on. We've got our friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union. Love Desert Financial Credit Union, of course, where we do our banking. It's the official banking partner of PHNX Sports. And if you're an Arizona sports fan, you can show your team spirit every time you purchase an exclusive debit card. Brand it with your favorite teams, including the Cardinals. You got ASU as well. If you're up north, you did your college up at NAU, you can rep the Lumberjacks. For over 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make lives better. They got a team of financial experts committed to their members of the community. Look for financial checking, savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. Go today and check out our friends over at desertfinancial.com/200 to get a $200 in bonuses for your checking account when you open one for free online. That's desertfinancial.com/200 to save or get $200 immediately. Love that from Desert Financial. Also, want to tell you guys about our draft party that's coming up at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass, a week from Thursday. Get out here and check it out. Tickets still available as they're dwindling, but you can get your spot today. You get 3 drink tickets. You get food included as well, and you get all the vibes. Can't wait for it. Get your tickets. Go phnx.com/events. Got of course, a link in the description. Get out to our PHNX Cardinals draft party, April 24th, the Upper Deck Kitchen and Bar, Gila River Resorts and Casinos at Wild Horse Pass.
With the tradition that we love, leading up to the NFL draft, we talked to our NFL insider, Benjamin Allbright. We talk about the combine, and we talked to him a week before. Of course, Broncos insider, NFL insider for KOA in Denver. He joins us. Ben, how we doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Although the way people hate me, I might have to start calling myself the outsider. So,
well, your insider information, it always tracks with this show. Obviously, we're the first to have Jonathan Gannon set to interview with the Cardinals. We'll always be thankful for that. You dropping that nugget among others down the road between then and now. Follow him on Twitter at Allbright NFL. So when we start to look at this, and I got to give you credit as well as fighting off and calling yourself an outsider, you're fighting the good fight against the aggregate accounts as well. You're holding time accountable. I saw this as far as them trying to deem the dire wolves return. We appreciate that.
Look, they don't call me Wet Blanket Allbright for nothing. It's it was just, it's not so much that, that I want to ruin fun. It's just that, like, hey, that biotech company, which is actually doing cool stuff, did a massive PR thing to get some more money pumped into their company by claiming they'd done something they hadn't done. And so that was, I just got a little irritated.
We appreciate that. You're holding people accountable, and that's what we like. It's as well as NFL teams. Your info, it comes off. You just call it like you see it, and sometimes fan base takes exception to that. But you've been very good to us and the Cardinals fans. I want to start with maybe some topical news here, some trending information. Jalen Ramsey, Chris Greer, the Dolphins talking about how it seems like that relationship's going to end in divorce. How are you kind of reading this? What's your understanding of the situation?
Well, that's been coming for a while. That's not news to either party internally. It may be news to people externally. They've been shopping him since the Senior Bowl. They've been floating that out there for a while, so that's not new news to to anybody in that camp. There are a couple of suitors. I think there's 3 or 4 teams that have legitimate interest in all that. Mostly teams, to be honest, they've had half the league call, but most have been sniffing around Tyreek Hill and seeing if he's actually available and all that kind of stuff. I know Chris Greer came out and said, if somebody wants to toss me a pair of ones, which is not what it would take to get that done. But that's there are some things going on with that franchise, with Dolphins franchise, and I would suggest that if they don't win this year, by win I mean at least win a playoff game, they're probably going to blow that thing up. So there's some pressure there. There's and they're trying to figure out exactly what they need to get there, what they can afford to part with, and how they're going to get there. Ramsey, wouldn't be surprised to see him go to the NFC. We'll see how that shakes out, but as it sits right now, I think there's 4 teams that are kind of seriously in on that, and we'll see where it goes.
Any of those 4, one of the teams I cover in the Arizona Cardinals, or the other 12 NFC teams?
I would not say you have to worry about him in the West. I don't think.
All right. So no, yeah, I guess that's good news to Cardinals fans that there's maybe no reunion there in LA with the Rams and Ramsey there. What are the main hurdles though, as far as getting the deal done for the 7-time Pro Bowler?
It's compensation back, and then once you get over there, it's anytime a new player goes over, and the way salaries shift with guaranteed money, you want to make sure that you've got guaranteed money behind it in coming years as a player. So, you got to spiff the player a little bit, or redo their contract a little bit to make them feel like you're making a long-term commitment to them, even though every commitment in the NFL is 2 years with team options after that. So, the compensation back, and it's not going to be insanely expensive. To get him off the Dolphins, but I think the Dolphins are trying to leverage the best way they can and bid that thing up as best they can. And so, I think it would already be done if they, if anybody comes up one more round from where they're at right now. I think it'll get done. So, I expect that to happen soon. I expect that to happen before the draft.
It's not like a DeAndre Hopkins situation from a couple years ago where it ends up in just an outright release. There are enough suitors out there where the Dolphins could come away with not empty-handed.
Yeah, I believe there will be trade compensation involved here. And I like I said, I believe it'll be done before the draft, if not during.
Let's get to the draft. What's trending towards the biggest, I guess, topic on draft day, the biggest story is Shedeur Sanders, obviously in your backyard there in Denver, played his collegiate ball in Boulder for Colorado. Giants showing some late interest in quarterback prospects, but what are the chances that Shedeur Sanders is still on the board when the Cardinals are picking at 60? Not that it would pique their interest, but just that he would be not picked ahead of them and a player could slide their way.
Well, if the Giants don't take him, then your next question is whether or not the Saints do. And I believe the Saints are going to take a quarterback in this draft. I'm just not sure they're going to take him. So if the Saints don't, then yeah, he should be there when the Cardinals pick. In fact, I think he'll be there at that rate. I think he'd be there when Denver picks. And so what you'd have is a team jumping up in front of Pittsburgh, to try to go get him, because the Steelers are very much in the quarterback market. Whether that's Shedeur or Milroe or Dart or whatever. I do believe that there would be a team jump in there. I don't know that the Cardinals. It's going to be tough. Like this draft is so weird in multiple ways. First of all, you got, like I said, you got a quarterback that are all over the map as far as but the grades beyond the first 10, 11 players, the grades for just about every team are all over the map because there's such a glut between like 12 and 100 in terms of these grades are all over the map. People's boards all over the map. I expect this to be probably the least accurate year for mock drafters ever after about pick 12. They're just because every team has got their own thing, and it's way, way different, I think, this year. So to make a short story long, I do believe that he would be there. If he doesn't get picked by the Giants or the Saints, I do believe he'll be there at the Cardinals, and I believe he'll be there beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue we're dealing with, because we're trying to get as many defensive front 7 players available to the Cardinals. I mean, that would follow up and piggyback what you told us back in February at the Combine, and so far come true that they are going to be hell-bent on rebuilding this defensive front 7. I got to imagine that continues in the draft, and we're just starting to say, okay, Cam Ward's the quarterback off the board. You got potential of maybe a running back, maybe 2 tight ends. I mean, as we start to stack that up, like, how many of those prospects could be in play before the Cardinals go? I mean, is it one quarterback and that's what it's shaping up to be?
Yeah, one or two. It just depends.
Yeah.
Again, the Giants situation and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys want more quarterbacks to go.
Sure.
For me, I think the Saints are on Tyler Shug in round 2. So I don't think that they're in the Shedeur market. So I really think you're hoping either the Giants trade back or just take Shedeur, as far as that kind of stuff goes. As far as you guys go, I mean, you know what's going to be gone by the time it gets to you. You're going to have, Travis Hunter will be gone. Cam Ward will be gone. Those for sure. Abdul Carter, those 3 will be gone. You're going to have 2 tackles at least gone, a corner, 1, maybe 2 tight ends gone by the time you get there, and you guys are probably hoping for that.
Yeah.
Let's see what else you're going to have. We'll see. Jalen Walker will be gone. So you can start doing the math on that and sort of figure out more or less, who's going to be there and be available. Janty will be gone, probably Hampton, maybe Trev Henderson. Those guys will be gone. I don't think there'll be a receiver gone by the time you guys pick. Not that you're in that market, but we'll see. Maybe Golden, maybe McMillian. It would take one. It would take one very specific team because there's just not a lot of teams that are on him. But yeah, so you can start doing the calculus on that and start to figure what's going to be available there, and then the priorities. With conversations we had in Arizona, it's offensive line, defensive line, and corner, and so you know what the priorities are there for the team. They believe they can get a receiver later, which they will draft one, but they'll draft it later. And so once you start doing the calculus on what's available, it's really down to the kind of those 3 positions and the players that fit those.
Yeah, not my strongest suit. Any type of math, getting that high level stuff like calculus, no chance. But look, I mean, when you start to do that, as far as looking at the prospects, Travis Hunter out of there, I'm sure like a Jahdae Barron is somebody that would need a specific team. Did the Dolphins become a player for Will Johnson with Ramsey potentially being out of the fold?
Potentially. They're sneaky team for Matt Golden too. Like we talked about that Tyreek Hill thing. If they do relent and move on from him, sneaky team for Matt Golden. But, Barron is somebody that's very much in the mix there. Obviously, if Will was to fall, I mean, he would be in there. But I don't think he'll get to them. So there's, I do believe that that's something they'd be in the market for. They like, a lot of people are on offensive tackle for them, but I'm not so sure. They really like Patrick Paul, who they drafted last year. And I kind of think that's the direction they're going to go. I don't think they're as much on offensive line necessarily as people think they are.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, as far as how that could be impacted there. You told us back in February you're pretty firm is Ashton Jeanty top 10 pick. Do you still feel that way?
Oh yeah, I told you guys the Raiders at the time, and everybody else was laughing at me, and I was like, yeah, they're trying to get Stafford, they're trying to get Jeanty, and they almost got Stafford, and then and I think they're going to wind up with Jeanty. So, I think that's it was funny. I had I went on you guys' sister show on the Chicago one, and and they were like they were all over. Oh, we're getting Jeanty and all this kind of stuff. Like, no, you're not. He's not going to be there. But now I think people kind of got to see the reality of that. Although I will say I do believe the Bears could be on running back. And again, Trevion Henderson there to the Bears. I know that sounds silly to a lot of people, but he's got a great relationship with Eric Bieniemy, who is their running backs coach. And I would not be surprised. Kind of fits that Jahmyr Gibbs mold. Wouldn't be surprised if they go running back there.
Wow. I mean, and then you've got Hampton as well in that conversation. I mean, it's a big draft for running backs. We've been talking. You were pretty straightforward as far as your assessment of Cam Skattebo, and wanted to get maybe a draft stock update on him. We've heard like all 32 teams would want a Cam Skattebo on their team, right? He's a guy, just a football player. That's the diagnosis as far as Scat goes. But what teams are you hearing in league circles would be legitimately interested in the ASU running back?
I think the league's a little lower on him than Arizona fans. I mean, obviously everybody, wants their own, all that kind of stuff. I would say there's a role for him in the NFL, probably as a third down type back. With maybe some chess piece type stuff on a few other things. You can maybe make him a returner with these new return rules and do a few other things with him here or there. But the weird stuff about it is you get these comparisons, and I don't know if it's just white guy comparison for running backs or what, but like somebody tried to compare it to Peyton Hillis. I'm like, bro, they are nothing alike. They are all, I mean, they played with the same same attitude, and that's about the only thing that's similar there. I mean, Peyton Hillis was like 45 pounds heavier, was taller, was faster, had better hand. I mean, Peyton Hillis was a wide receiver at Arkansas for a while there before converting back to running back. So it's, I mean, they're nothing alike. Let's use realistic comparisons, sir. Let's not do comparisons at all. How about that? How about this is the first Cam Skattebo? There are teams that have shown a propensity for versatility with their running backs. The one thing that really intrigues me, and it probably doesn't intrigue a lot of people, but Cam Skattebo in Arthur Smith's offense, the way that he sort of used Cordarrelle Patterson, I feel like is a way that he could sort of use a Cam Skattebo type player. Cam's got good hands; he can catch the ball. You can move him around a little bit. You can use him as a returner. You can use him out of the backfield, and people that are sort of chess piece players like that, especially at the running back position. Arthur Smith's had kind of a propensity for before, so I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Steelers offense. As far as teams that are definitely interested, there's been a few teams that have had him in and that kind of stuff. I just don't think that the league has as high a priority on him as I see mock drafters put him in the first and second round, and I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, no, we agree. I mean, it's something we've been following pretty closely throughout the draft process, and it just seems like he's destined for day 3. If he gets, Arthur Smith gets his grimy hands on him, it's just he's going to plummet DK Metcalf's probably fantasy value there, and Cam Skattebo is going to be catching passes in the end zone instead of DK.
Oh my goodness, you got DK, and you got George Pickens on the outside. You put Skattebo in the backfield, and somehow Arthur Smith's going to trade for and be dialing up pass plays for Darnell Washington, in the end zone. And throw everybody's fantasy and betting slips off because that's what he does. But players like that and running backs like that, he tends to do well with, and I think that's somebody that could kind of maximize his effectiveness. When I view Skattebo in the NFL, something like and their body types aren't the same, but Samaje Perine, what he did in Denver, what he did in Cincinnati, like sort of that, the way Skattebo runs is going to wear himself down over time because he's got that violent running style. He'll wear himself down. So you can't use him as a 15 carry a game guy. You got to use him as like an 8 carry a game guy, throw him some passes, let him touch the ball, returns. And if you can find a way to do that, and kind of mix up those things so he doesn't just grind himself down running the ball, then I think you'll maximize the effectiveness.
Couple more questions. I want to circle right back to another local prospect here. As you mentioned, Tedero McMillan. He said there's one team that's maybe kind of going to save him from maybe a fall into the 20s. Why is it the Dallas Cowboys, or am I off there?
No, you're not off. Because they're looking around at a couple of different options. That's one they're looking at. They're also looking at Matt Golden. They're looking at running backs. They're looking at offensive linemen. They're looking at a bunch of different things, but they do have a high opinion of him. And that Cowboys organization has certainly gotten the most out of guys that may not be the most committed to football before either. And McMillan is kind of that guy. Like, football's probably a means to an end for him. He's not a guy who's eats, sleeps, and breathes football. He's just not that dude. Then there's nothing wrong with that, if that's your thing. But you got to understand that's going to put some teams off, some coaches off, that kind of stuff. And I'm not just talking about the clip out there from a couple of years ago. I think everybody's seen that, whatever, which was kind of sort of taken out of context, but whatever. No, I'm not just talking about. He's just not that dude. He's also not what people have sort of, again, we get to these comparisons. I keep seeing Mike Evans comparisons for McMillan, and I'm like, man, scouts I talk to are like, he's closer to like Michael Pittman or Devontae Parker than he is to Mike Evans. Mike Evans was an unreal athlete back then. I think people don't realize how good Mike Evans was because everybody was looking at Johnny Manziel back then and didn't realize that Mike Evans was absolutely, was down on the other end, on the receiving end, all those YOLO balls. And so, I think people don't realize that he's not maybe exactly what people think. They get blinded by the size. And then there were some numbers out there that were just goofy. That 40 time that was out there, like 4.4 or something. And I'm like, he ran the 4.5s, like the mid to late 4.5s. I had scouts that were like texting me their stopwatches, and being like, dude, what in the world is X, Y, and Z Twitter account talking about? Like, we're not even close here. That guy must have been measured at the 30-yard mark or something. So, I think there's some things like, not that I don't think that he can succeed in the NFL. And I like the Michael Pittman comp because I think it's a good one, but I just don't think there are teams that are in this particular draft willing to post a kind of asset that, that top 20 asset on a guy like that, when you can get some guys a little later on, the kid out of Tennessee, the kid out of TCU, who've got some nice height, weight, speed stuff that, that you can get a little bit later on without having to spend that high an asset, especially in a draft that's got defensive linemen and, in this particular class that I think are pretty good. And you don't really have to, and you can go back and get the receiver later.
I think our Arizona audience would prefer the Michael Pittman Jr. over the Devontae Parker. Had zero separation skills. He actually had a pretty incredible career considering how very little he could get open. So we'll take that for TMac. Last thing here is as we start to look at it, and you're obviously deep in league circles here, who are three prospects that you could confidently say could be wearing an Arizona Cardinals uniform after day one of the draft?
Oh, that's a good question. If one of the two tackles were to fall for some reason, not just because, although I don't think that's going to happen.
And you're talking Campbell Membu there?
Yeah. They think highly of both of them. So, if they were to fall there, I think you really have to look at that at least. I think they want to go defensive line here. I think they want to finish that out. I would not be surprised if Nolan or Harmon, happen to be there, which I think both will. I think you could look at that. They may look at the what's the kid, the safety. His last name starts with an E that I always butcher every time.
Out of South Carolina.
That may be a direction you'd look as well. I think they're going to come away with a defensive football player.
Yeah.
There are one or two offensive players that, if they were there, maybe, but I think they're going to come away with a defensive football player. Just the conversations I've had made it sort of seem like that as they continue to build that thing out. And they think they've got as good a shot as anybody in the West this year. So they want to make sure they get guys that can make immediate impact and contribute to that.
Unbelievable insight, of course. Follow him on Twitter at Allbright NFL. Also check him out, KOA Colorado. Of course, you can listen to it, the iHeartRadio app. If you're not local there in Denver, not on your radio dial. But Benjamin, we always love catching up with you. It's too far between now and our combine catch up, but it's been great pre-draft connecting with you and getting your insight, man.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Nick Imanwuri, that's who we're looking at from South Carolina. I'd be floored if they went safety. Not to go back on all the things that Benjamin said because he gave us some tremendous insight there. But unbelievable tester at the combine, safety, 6'3", 220, out of South Carolina, playing for the Gamecocks. A lot of people have him, as their top safety ahead of Malachi Starks, but that's a draft debate that rages on. We continue our draft discussion. Our guy, Fran Duffy, is going to give his latest. We'll get into our conversation. We asked Ben about Cam Skattebo. We're going to ask our guy, Fran Duffy, about Cam Skattebo. Finally press him on where he thinks the best landing spot for Scat could be, plus what he's hearing from league circles about what the Cardinals could do at 16. All coming up next, PHNX Cardinals. Cannot wait to talk to Fran, but I need to tell you about our friends over at All Pro Shade Concepts. Extend your outdoor living space with custom fit awning from All Pro Shade Concepts. Give them a call today, 623-204-1476, and online at allproshadeconcepts.com. Roll down patio shades, block the sun to keep your patio up to 20 degrees cooler. It's important this time of year, even further down the road, just about a month out from now. You're going to really appreciate it. Hundreds of colors, durable fabric, withstand the AZ sun, and choose from manual or motorized, sealed, track, or cable shades, and in winter, drop-down shades that can create outdoor living area that keeps cold weather out and warm weather in, or warm air in. Check them out right now. They can fix old, outdated patio shades with motorized awnings. And most trusted shade company voted #1 by ranking Arizona patio shades in 2024 BBB A+ ratings with over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. They've been in business for 20 years. It's a no-brainer. Check them out right now. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Call them now, 623-204-1476. That's 623-204-1476. Or visit allproshadeconcepts.com to schedule your free estimate with our friends over there at All Pro Shade Concepts. Also need to tell you about our friends over at Empire Today. Love Empire Today. As we're talking all this draft, we're laying the foundation. It's important to have solid ground beneath your feet, and it doesn't stop as far as your home, your condo, wherever it may be. check out Empire Today. They've got all those big box scores out there. Those are some options, but you'll wander endless aisles, and somehow you'll be talking to somebody that worked at Blockbuster before it closed down and knows nothing about flooring. That's not the case with Empire Today. They know exactly what you're looking for. They're experts in this area. Get the virtual floor designer. Log on to empiretoday.com/PHNX. Get your smartphone out, take a picture of your dwelling, and see what new carpeting, new flooring would look like in that setting. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some of those things are better in-home. PHNX listeners receive a $350 discount immediately by using the promo code PHNX. That's right, $350 discount code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHNX for full details. Use that promo code. You're not going to regret it. It's always a daunting thing getting the new flooring putting in. It's not when you do it with our friends over at Empire Today. I told you about our draft party. Here's another thing that you need to know about being a part of this PHNX community, becoming a diehard and saving big and becoming one. How about $36? That's all it's going to cost you for the year. $3 a month. You get ad-free access to PHNX expert analysis. You want Gerald Bourguet's breakdown of how the Suns coaching search is going to go. You want full access to any of our Cardinals article, the draft guide, a free PHNX shirt. That's a $35 value, 20% off all PHNX events and merch, access to Diehards Only Discount Lounge. Check it out. Discord Lounge. I apologize. That's what you're looking for. Become a diehard today for the low price, $36. It's an unbeatable deal. Get in right now and join the community we're so proud to be a part of. Down close to the NFL draft, about a week away. Can't wait. We got our guy Fran Duffy. Follow him on Twitter at FDuffyNFL. Taking stock nearly a week out. And Fran, you've been on the horn. You've been making some calls in league circles, really trying to get a pulse of this thing as we're just days away. What's your sense about how things are going to kind of kick off next week on Thursday?
Yeah, Bo, it's going to be really fun next Thursday night because the unpredictability of this draft, it makes it tough to evaluate leading up, but it's going to be really fun to just watch it all play out. So many different iterations of what could happen. I mean, we're a week out and we're not even 100% sure what number 4 is going to do, much less you get into 7 and 11 and 15 and what could happen for the Cardinals at 16. So it's going to be really fun. I've been going through a lot of, yeah, but what if this happens? And then how does that impact the next 3 selections? It's a lot of different versions of reality, but it's going to be fun to watch it play out.
What are some of the things that you're feeling very confident, a sense of conviction on as far as maybe top 10, top 20? Like what can you point to and say, hey, I got a pretty good sense that this is going to happen?
I feel pretty good that despite the fact that, the New York Giants are doing all these workouts with all these quarterbacks late, despite the Derrick Harmon news late last week, I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to go in the top 10. I would be surprised if he goes in the top 15, if we're going to be honest. I do think he's still on the clock still on the board when the Cardinals are on the clock at 16 overall. The question is, how long does he last? There's been a lot of reporting about potentially Pittsburgh, being involved there with Mike Tomlin. I'm actually still even a little suspicious of that one just because they had that showcase and Mike Tomlin, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're always very, very active, Bo, on the pro day trail. You always see Mike Tomlin and the general manager, coordinators in tow going to pro day after pro day after pro day. They're not out there at Colorado. That makes me think that that's not happening here. Now, I know he came in for a visit this week, and they're going to work him out and all that thing. But to me, that feels like posturing on Pittsburgh's part to try and see if they can get somebody to trade up ahead of them. So we'll see. It's going to be fascinating to watch that play out.
Shedeur might spend so much time on the board, he actually gets his jersey retired there as well as he is in Colorado. Just 2 short seasons there in Boulder. But look, I guess the criteria is a little bit less there to get it done. But so even with Shedeur out of there's no dark horse that's going to sneak up. Are we feeling pretty firm that it's going to be Cam Ward at the quarterback position and the rest are going to be position players?
I think so. I think we're going to see Cam Ward go number 1. Obviously, we all feel good about that. And then after that, my guess is it's Travis Hunter at 2, Abdul Carter at 3. And then we'll see how the rest of it plays out. My gut says it's Will Campbell, going to New England. But I think when we watch the rest of this play out, we're not going to see another quarterback come off the board until the 20s. I really don't think New Orleans is going to be in the market. I know there's been some buzz with them and Jackson Dart. I don't think that that's the selection there at 9 overall. Yeah. So I think it's a bunch of non-quarterbacks in the top 20.
Seems like such a roll of the dice for New Orleans. unless they're just out on Shedeur as a prospect. I mean, you talk about Tyler Shuck, and I know he did some good things in the Senior Bowl and the pre-draft. Like, I saw a clip of him at the combine and a throw that he made at Louisville, unfathomable. I mean, as far as the decision-making there, I mean, I think that's what you're going to get the good with the bad, but maybe, you know, there's the rest of the things that they like about Shuck. You hear Moxie and all those other, like, really kind of trendy words that go associated with quarterback prospects, but really a roll of the dice from New Orleans with Derek Carr's future in the balance here. Let's talk about Ashton Jeanty. Is he the lone wolf running back going in the top 20?
In the top 20, I would say no. I do think Omarion Hampton sneaks in there. I've got my mock draft, my 7-round, 32-team mock draft dropping tomorrow. And Omarion Hampton does sneak into the top 20 there. So, yeah, I do think two go. I do think it's only Omarion Hampton, only Ashton Jeanty in the top 15 and in the top 10. So I think when you're looking at Ashton Jeanty, he will be off the board clearly by the time Arizona is on the clock. But I do think Hampton will be there. I know there's been some connecting him to Dallas at 12. I don't envision that being the way they go. My guess is that they end up with a pass catcher.
I cannot wait for your 7-round mock draft. As you mentioned, it drops tomorrow. Go PHNX.com. You were giving me a little insight on the Cardinals, and I'm a big fan of the moves you make. You're wheeling and dealing much like Monty Ossenfort would in this draft. I'm not going to reveal where. You're going to have to read it tomorrow. Go PHNX.com. Let's get the latest kind of feel you have on the wide receiver position. Obviously, local product, somebody we've talked about a lot. Teteroa, McMillan, Matthew Golden seems to be a trendy prospect. You're a little bit higher on Burden. Am I correct in saying that? I mean, those were the 3 guys we started with. What's your sense now as far as how the league is viewing this wide receiver class and where they could go?
Yeah, it's obviously not a star-studded group in terms of the talent that we're going to expect to see go off the board at the top. I think the earliest we see a receiver go, like I mentioned, is to the Dallas Cowboys at 12 overall. And, you know, when I make calls down there to Dallas and have those conversations with people in local media and ask teams that are picking around Dallas, you know, what do you think Dallas is going to do ahead of you guys? Everybody thinks it's going to be receiver, and just depending on who you talk to, it's either Matthew Golden or Teteroa McMillan. And so my gut tells me that it's going to be Tet. I do think that it's going to be Teteroa McMillan in that spot, but it wouldn't shock me if it was Matthew Golden. Now, if Matthew Golden doesn't go there, I've been struggling to find a fit for him, you know, through the rest of round 1. You know, Houston, I've heard, is a team that's been connected to him a little bit. He's a local guy, and they're looking for a receiver, obviously. But outside of that, I've been struggling to find another team that's, they're definitely in the Matthew Golden camp. Whereas with McMillan, I was finding more teams that might be, might be in that shopping in that aisle. You know, whether it's a Tampa Bay or the LA Chargers, the Seattle Seahawks, and so there are a number of teams I think that would be willing to pay for Teteroa McMillan. With Golden, I had some trouble, and we get to the end of the round, and you can see that Matthew Golden goes a little bit later in my mock than he does in most.
Francis tape stinks. I said, can't wait to see it. So we did this exercise, Coach Johnny Venerable and me, yesterday, just taking the 22 reported top 30 visit that the Cardinals have had, as we've gone over in the show that Monty Ossenfort has selected in these 3 first-round picks, top 30 visit in each and every one of them. So we're trying to just follow the tea leaves here. Here's our list. We tier ranked them a little bit, Fran. The pick at 16, some guys that are viable options there. We have Jalen Walker, Will Johnson, Michael Williams, Walter Nolan, James Pierce Jr., Shamar Stewart, Kenneth Grant, and then some trade down options: Scorton, Jahad Campbell, Josh Simmons, who came in for a 30 visit, Darius Alexander out of Toledo. What do you think about our hierarchy here?
I love this. I wish every team in every market could supply something like this, like across the entire NFL. This is such a great way to look at it. It's a great way for your viewers and for your listeners to be able to look at who is likely on the board for this team, especially when you have a GM, when you have a franchise that is going to use the top 30 visits this way. You have this trend here with Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon. So to me, I'm looking at this board. There are a lot of names I think that make sense, but I do think it's probably in like that trade up, trade down kind of situation. It's going to be fascinating for some of the range on some of these players.
Let's talk about those guys really kind of in the mix at 16. Then we can bring this down. Jalen Walker, Will Johnson really seem kind of like pipe dreams a little bit, just because it does feel like they could go earlier than 16, at least the best bunch of that group. But when you look at, a James Pierce Jr., when you see, Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams, like that players of that ilk, like where do you kind of rank those kind of defensive front players in their fit with the Cardinals and just overall prospects?
Yeah, I think all those guys certainly fit to a certain extent. I agree with your assessment on Jalen Walker and with Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan. I've heard Will Johnson as early as 6. That's a little bit of a reach there for the Raiders. But I think you're looking at 9 to New Orleans, San Francisco at 11, Miami at 13 feels like the floor there for Will Johnson as we sit here a week out. But I think when you're looking at Jalen Walker, he's another one I've heard as high as number 4 to New England. And then there are some people that do feel like he could fall out of the top 10 and we start getting into like 11, 12, 13. But it feels like the majority does feel that Walker is going to go high. It's just funny though, man. Like whenever I have a conversation about Jalen Walker, it's like, yeah, he's a really fun player, but it's a really fun, he's a really tough guy. He's a great kid off the field, but and so that's going to be fascinating to see which team is okay with everything that happens after but, right? And so when you look at Jalen Walker, his versatility stands out. I think it would be a great match. He definitely fits like the ethos and the mentality that Jonathan Gannon is trying to instill in that defense. I think the versatility makes a lot of sense. Most likely he is off the board.
Yeah, most likely, could he be Hassan Reddick 2.0? Could he be that guy, play that outside linebacker position for Rollis and Gannon? Yeah. We'd love to see it. Mykel Williams is certainly somebody we're rolling out, of course, your prospect breakdowns. And, Johnny and I, we talk at the front and the end of those things. I know that's a little bit inside baseball, but those videos, obviously, you can find here on the YouTube page, PHNX Sports. But when we were doing the Mykel Williams one, and, we've talked about your comp and Josh Sweat, 6'5", and size and the athleticism, and I read in your breakdown and your draft guide that he felt like he was playing less than 60% with that foot injury. If you get a healthy Mykel Williams, it just seems like it would be such a great fit for the Cardinals.
Yeah, when I look at these edge rushers, a lot of them, when you get past Abdul Carter, a lot of them, it's like, all right, there's something that couches their value, where it's like, I want to like this guy, but going back to the Jalen Walker thing. And with Mykel Williams, it was the injury, lack of production. We were all hoping that he would ascend into like that top 5 quality pick status this past year, but the injury kept him from reaching that ceiling. But he's extremely young. He's really long. He's athletic. I know he didn't test great in terms of like the 40-yard dash at the pro day. I honestly don't care, because when I watch him on film, I see a guy that is able to move pretty well. He's produced at a higher rate than a lot of the other rushers and defensive linemen that have come out of that scheme, at least 4.5 sacks every single year that he was in Athens. So when I look at Mykel Williams, I see a guy that's worth the bet. Is it a surefire bet? No. But I think that at the end of the day, highest he probably goes is 8. And I think there is a little bit of buzz with him in Carolina. Even if Jalen Walker is on the board, I think there is a chance that Mykel Williams could end up as a Carolina Panther. But then I look at the New Orleans Saints at 9, the Chicago Bears at 10. A lot of these teams start out Mykel Williams at 11 to San Francisco. I know San Francisco would like to get that defensive line reorged on the fly. So I think when you're looking at Mykel Williams, I think the range is anywhere from 8, I want to say like 13, 14. And so I think that it would require a move up there for the Arizona Cardinals.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, Abdul Carter is way out of the Cardinals range. He's going to be top 2 potential pick in this draft. James Pierce Jr., Mykel Williams, you've got, you're big on Jordan Birch, right? From Oregon, maybe not in that conversation, but you've got, as far as kind of your edge hierarchy, your rankings, could you rip off your top 5 here?
Yeah, I think certainly, obviously, we talk about Abdul Carter. Mykel Williams, for me, would be second up on that list, just because of all the reasons that we discussed. Jalen Walker, I've gotten to say, I actually have him with my off-ball guy, so I'll leave him off to the side. Landon Jackson from Arkansas is next up for me. I have him, JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State, and Nick Scorton all kind of bunched together. I think when you look at Shamar Stewart, the development required is such a big leap for me personally. I do think he's going to go in the top 15, top 20 of this draft. I don't really see him getting past, we'll say 18 to Cincinnati. I think that's you're in that range you're looking at with him. I think that he could be on the board for Arizona at 16 if they wanted to stick and pick, but that lack of production is just so worrisome for me personally. I just think that's not something that he's going to be able to overcome. Mike Green, it's the off-field concern that you have. Every team is going to have to make that call. But for me, one of the reasons I love Landon Jackson. He's got some Josh Sweat to his game as well, just that length, that ability to win the edge. I love the way he plays. I think that play personality will play really well with Jonathan Gannon in Arizona, but he's more of a, all right, trade back in round 1, maybe even a double trade back or a trade up in round 2 kind of situation there when you're looking at Landon Jackson. Same thing for Tui Moloau, the edge rusher from Ohio State. This is a no-nonsense power rusher, heavy-handed, can defend the run. I would say not dynamic enough to go round 1, but to me, like a really solid day 2 pick all day. A+ character, has just been so consistent. Had his best year this past year for the national champions. And then Nick Squirton's a guy that is starting to get a little bit of buzz, man, to the point where I think he would be a guy where if you do have a slight trade down for Arizona, he would make some sense. And I think he's a good fit schematically for JG and that defense as well.
A lot of people point to his Purdue tape being better than his A&M tape. Do you subscribe to that?
Yeah, I think so. When you watch him at Purdue, he was playing in the 260s, 265, leads the Big Ten in sacks as a 19-year-old, as a sophomore, goes to Texas A&M after leading the Big Ten in sacks. So I'm going to go in the portal, goes down to Texas A&M. And depending on who you talk to, because I've heard conflicting things here, either he took it upon himself or was asked by the A&M coaching staff, hey, you know what? We want you to get better as a run defender. Let's put on some added weight. Your frame can handle it. Put on some added weight. So he gets up north of 280. And I think that his play, his explosiveness suffered for that. It's good to be able to see that he can add that weight, but I think he just lost a little bit of juice. All the production numbers fell this past year at Texas A&M. He played up near 285. Well, now you see him at the combine, and he was like 257, right? And he looks like a different human being, a different player. And to me, I'm leaning more on the sophomore tape when you're looking at Nick Squirton. He's a great kid off the field. Everybody you talk to speaks very highly of him. Very young player, is turning 21, I think later this spring, so he's not even 21 yet. So when you're looking at Squirton, I do think that it's reasonable to say his best football could still be ahead of him.
Yeah. Before we get to our token Cam Skattebo question, and don't think we're going to avoid it just because Johnny's not on today's show, I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, as far as the prospect that has really kind of risen the highest during this entire process in your eyes, that maybe was an afterthought for you, maybe not even on your radar, that has made his way all the way, maybe even potential first-round pick?
Yeah, buzzing through my list really quickly in terms of a guy that really just kind of struck me. One guy that grew on me the more I watched, because I'm going to be honest, when I watched him at first blush back in October, I said, this is a solid player, but I don't know that he's like a top-end first-round talent. That's Derrick Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon. Yeah. It took watching a handful more games to say, like, oh, yeah, like this guy, he's got the goods. I mean, obviously, look, all the analytic numbers are all really good with him, but this is a guy who started his career at Michigan State, was a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker. It's honestly the inverse of what we're talking about with Squirton, where when you're looking at what this kid did, he was at Michigan State, was a little bit too big, Derrick Harmon, transfers to Oregon, sheds weight, has a great year, final year on campus. He's stout. He's powerful. He's got a few different moves in his bag to win as a rusher. He was so good at winning at the top of the rush this past year. And then also, this is a guy that in a scheme that was not always asking him to just get upfield, took advantage of all of those reps where he did get upfield. And so he can win off the ball. He can win with power. He's good against the run. He's long. He looks the part. I've heard good things off the field as well. So Derrick Harmon is a guy that he grew on me with the second and third watch as I went through the rest of the tape.
Really interesting. Let's get to this now. Okay, Cam Skattebo, lock in. Day 3 arrives. For me, that's where I would say, hey, this is where Scat's name should be called in this draft.
Yep,
feels the correct time. What situation do you think is best for Scat to flourish at the NFL level?
Yeah, one of the things I love most about him is that with his versatile skill set, I think there are multiple paths to success there. I ended up having him go off the board right in this area of the draft, just outside the top 120. So early day 3, mid day 3, to a team where he can be either an early down workhorse, or depending on the running back situation in year 2, year 3, maybe he is more the pass catcher, like change of base, third down. We know he's got some things to clean up in pass protection, but the size, the strength, the effort is all there. So from a technique standpoint, that's fine. You can hone that in. We know he can do what he can be as a receiver out of the backfield. And so to me, that's one of my favorite things about Cam Skattebo is that versatile skill set, what made him such a fun player to watch at the college level. That's going to play well for him moving forward because, I've watched a lot of backfields in the league where you see a guy's role change over time. Maybe in year one, he's the third down back, but then in year two, he's a goal line short yardage. And then year three, there's an injury, and now he's the 3-down guy. I think Skattebo is one of those skill sets.
The suspense is killing me. Where is that?
I've got him in Washington, going to Washington in the fourth round. They've got Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler right now. Eckler is obviously on the back nine of his career. Brian Robinson entering a contract year, though. And so I think that he could be kind of a complimentary piece year one. And then if they like what they see, maybe he's the guy in 2026.
From maroon gold to burgundy and gold there. And playing at Cliff Kingsbury. Not going to see a lot of stacked boxes with that Cliff offense.
No, and you know what? They did so much out of the two back sets last year with Robinson and Eckler. I think that they could be creative with Cam Skattebo. Again, going back to his versatile skill set. He's not a mismatch type, but neither is Eckler at this point in his career. Eckler's not winning a lot of foot races, and I think when you look at Skattebo, you would say a lot of the same things about him.
I wouldn't with that. I mean, Johnny would throw something at me if I dare say something about his sweet, precious Cam Skattebo, but I like the fit. I do. I really do. I think it would bode well for him. A good starting point for his NFL career. Unbelievable insight. As we mentioned, the 7-round mock draft, it's dropping tomorrow. Go PHNX.com. Our diehard sale continues, so you can get access to that at the low price of $36 for the year. Unbelievable. $3 a month, basically, for that low cost. Get all access to Fran's draft guide, all the work that he's been doing throughout this pre-draft process and before, all that thorough work, all that data that you crave at this time of year. It's right there at your disposal. Go PHNX.com and all of our all-city affiliates. Fran, can't wait to see it. Can't wait for people to see what you do, is how you kind of cook something up like Monty Austin-Fordish in the first round. Check it out, and we can't wait to catch up next week before the real deal.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm doing trades in a 7-round mock draft. Anyone I've talked to about it says I'm nuts for doing it. But look, I want to put on my Monty shoes. We got to do it, right? So it's gonna be fun. Bo, thanks so much. We'll talk again next week, man.
Sounds good. Love seeing this from our guy Shaft, saying he's gonna buy 2 more diehard memberships and just keep the t-shirts for himself, but get a couple memberships for his son. And I think he said wife there. Yeah, that's smart. Take advantage of the low price. I mean, it's the price of a t-shirt in the merchandise locker. So that's just smart, working smarter, not harder, from our guy, Shaft. Incredible stuff there. A little run on Draft Insight. You're ready. I mean, I'm ready. I just want tomorrow to be draft day at this point after hearing from Benjamin Allbright and Fran Duffy. We've got one super chat to get through here, and then we'll off into the rest of our Tuesdays. Tom Bauer. Don't disregard the way Isaiah Adams and Jones played at the end of last year, not against offensive line. I really wanted alt last year, but this is a defensive line edge cornerback year. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think where you really wouldn't be able to maximize your top pick, 16th overall, is if you just try to get cute and say, well, everybody's zigging, we're going to zag. We're going to take, what we feel is the third best option, because that's what it's going to be at that point. It's going to be the third best option on the offensive line. It's not like there's a steep decline from Will Campbell and Mimbu to what the next group is, where it's Calvin Banks and then Josh Simmons potentially and Gray Zabel. I mean, that's your next tier there, where I'd say like the defensive line, like your edge rush group, like it's a much deeper first tier, and you get another chance at a high score edge group defensive lineman instead of maybe a mid-tier offensive line, where, like, would you have that big of a fall off if you took somebody as a developmental player down the draft board, or just let it ride with continuity in the group that you had last year, and just hope that Jonah Williams can stay healthier, and then you've got a fallback plan in Kelvin Beachum. There just isn't that tackle where at 16th overall, where you're going to say, hey, that's somebody that like you have to get, and he's going to transform, or he's going to take kind of take down the sack number from 30 of Kyler Murray last year to significantly lower there, and it just kind of build this wall, because that's not going to happen. That's very unrealistic. Just by drafting a young first round offensive lineman doesn't immediately mean you've just got, one of the best groups in the league. Like it's going to be very similar with the type of prospect that you're going to get, where this guy's going to be vying, hopefully beat out who you have in house, but that's not even a given at this point. Our guy Dylan saying 199. You're killing it, Bo. Thank you so much, Dylan. Appreciate that. Appreciate
Bo
everybody.
needed that.
I did. Yeah, I did.
I could feel the confidence waning a little bit.
Right.
That's a pick me up. Our guy Dylan.
Yeah, we all need a pick me up. It's I feel like today was a victory. We get Clancy in here. I got to debate with him, call him wrong to his face about his choice at 16th overall.
Like the good old days.
And then I brought in a pair of analysts, experts in their field, and Allbright and Duffy, and they basically said Johnny's wrong, and then he wasn't here to defend himself.
That is a W. That's a big Bo W. Bo 1, Johnny 0.
2.
Yeah.
I'll take 2.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, and Allbright, just an absolute killer as always.
Yeah. Just, he wouldn't back down from his wolf takes.
Yep.
He's steadfast with that. And then just Andy was pointing this out on Twitter, and it kind of got lost in all the information that he gave you. Is like, basically definitively said the Cardinals are taking a wide receiver in this draft, just not early.
Yeah, he did say that. Well, that's interesting.
And Johnny, as sicko he is, not taking a day off on his day off. He's tweeting out there earlier today, like, stop, mocking Matthew Golden to the Cardinals. Like, how much more proof does this show need to give you?
Yeah, I mean, Benjamin Allbright comes on. He tells you exactly how it is. He says, first round out of the question, but they are interested in bringing a guy in, which makes sense. They need to round out the room a little bit. But yeah, certainly a first round pick seems very rich given what the Cardinals' top 30 visits are indicating, right? I mean, the receivers that they're talking to are 7th round / UDFA type of guys.
Yeah. All right, here's how things are going to go the next couple days. Tomorrow, we're going to take a random Wednesday off. Not completely off. I'm going to be out at the Cardinals pre-draft press conference. Jonathan Gannon, Monty Ossenfort, we're going to give you all the highlights, all the insight from the GM and the head coach, and the press conference that every year is kind of a nothing burger. Like, this is where you get, they talk for a while and they tell you a lot, but at the same time, they tell you nothing at all. But we're going to hear from the Cardinals head coach and their GM. Can't wait. You guys are throwing out some good late wide receiver prospects there. Appreciate that. But no show tomorrow at 4:30. But we're going to be back in full force on Thursday and Friday. Round out the last week before the NFL draft strong. Can't wait to do that. It will be the return of Johnny Venerable on Thursday and Friday as well. So check it out. Enjoy most of the time tomorrow. We're going to have still great content up there on the YouTube streets, PHNX_sports. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Damon said, I needed that little confidence boost. A like would go equally just as hard, if not harder. Thank you to everybody in the chat for your contributions. Good back and forth. I love the roasting of Clancy early on. I'll feed off of that. And everybody have a great rest of your Tuesday. Great work from Damon. We'll talk to you guys on Thursday here on PHNX Cardinals.
We all silly like the mayor.